Hello, everybody. Welcome to the community presentation today. Today, Bernie Berrio, who is the Chief Endeavor Administrator here at CA, will be presenting a field-developed enhancement that was done by Owen O'Cleary from CA. It is not part of the GA product at this point, but we are looking at incorporating it, and any comments, good, bad, would be very much appreciated. There is entries in ideation on the community page for these features, and any comments you have might be very much appreciated, will be very much appreciated. So, Bernie, is there anything you need to say before you get started?
No, I'm all set. I
Okay.
think everyone should know who I am, I think, so that's fine.
I think. Does anybody have any questions before we get started on the call? Okay, I guess we're ready to go, Bernie.
Okay, thanks, Pete. As Pete mentioned, we received a field developed program from Owen O'Cleary about the long names search for and the widescreen support, and he asked that we implement it here to shake it out, and we did so. But it's not the only field developed program that we've involved ourselves with. But and so this presentation will go through our implementation work and what we do to put FDPs available for the users, but also through presentation slides, because I don't trust the demos anymore, live demos, what the panels and screens look like and how they work. And it's open, I guess, open mic in case you want to ask questions as we're going along. If I'm going too fast, slow me down, etc., and we'll do the best we can to show you what this does. There is a disclaimer here that I have to say now, since it's not part of the product and we're testing it or we implemented it in a live environment without the support team, Owen O'Cleary and I fixed the pieces as we need to, the parts and pieces of this implementation. There are 114 different elements that are involved. They are, in fact, some Endeavor elements that are replaced by the utility, so care is taken to make sure that we do things properly and there's no warranty implied, expressed, or written. So for the agenda, I'll go through a little definition of how we have defined FDPs, how we implemented what the widescreen looks like and how we use it, ESRCHFOR, which is a more robust searching mechanism, we think, long name support, which is allowing you to pull in long name elements into Endeavor without using the enterprise workbench, and some of the pop-up options that Owen has been playing with, and we use them now. So for field developed programs, we get our developers involved and we ask them, what are you doing today with Endeavor, and do you know of any ways that can make things easier for you? So we develop all kinds of little applications or utilities that use Endeavor API or Endeavor pieces, and build tools, commands, and things of that nature to help the developers become more productive. They don't want to have to drive through all the panels that we all know and love. They know they can use quick edit, but there's other activities that they want to have done, in a quick one command kind of thing, to give them the ability to do their work swiftly and without having to really get into the depths of Endeavor. And then we deliver these productivity tools so that everybody can take advantage of them. And every other week we have a conference call with all the Endeavor users who wish to attend to go over these utilities and how they are implemented and how they can benefit them. We try to use SMPE to manage these utilities through user mods. Endeavor does not deliver user mods, and we kind of frown upon user mods because it does have adverse effects on implementations, but the easiest way for us to keep track of them and have SMPE do all the work for us within our Chorus management system, we use SMPE to do that. So like I said, we discuss activities, we provide productivity tools, we implement the tools, we test them, and then deploy them, and eventually everybody gets to use them and enjoy their usage. We find it does reduce their workload, and I like that we always provide endorphins. We need that stuff, so endorphins are good. What we do for Endeavor here is we use an Endeavor system as a repository so that all of the FTP elements are stored within Endeavor, and then we use the base libraries of source output libraries for testing, and then we deploy them into production libraries, and then we allocate each one of these facilities through the use of a flag setting in our ISPF profile. And it makes it easier for us to turn it on and turn it off for users who may or may not want to use that utility. This is our Endeavor Access panel, and basically you see that we've provided a built-in panel here that allows them to select Endeavor, PDM, or Quick Edit. It also has the long name support facility entry in it, and there's 3 other options there that just deal with internal stuff that aren't that critical for anybody else. But at the bottom where the red box is, we have the widescreen option, which is the FTP I'm going to demonstrate today, and a PDA option, which is the Parallel Development Alert. And that option is also developed by the Field Services Group. And what it does is when you go into edit mode on a particular element, it shows you every instance of that element in other places in the inventory, so that our developers know who else is working on the same element that they're working on and where it lives and what their version level information is. And it helps us here to determine the who, what, where, why, and how of an element. So you can see that this panel has that information on it for me, and I have both options turned on. Whoops. Okay. One of the panels off of this access panel allows the user to put in the options, and that's where I put in a Y to say turn this on. And then we use the C-list allocation or REX allocation to define the data sets. I defined a couple of variables here that for the FTP data sets, and then the preference symbolic is for the target SMPE target libraries that are installed where Endeavor is installed. And then we test the option to determine whether or not data sets are supposed to be allocated. This way that we always make sure that they are allocating the right libraries at the right point in time, and any changes made to those libraries, they don't have to do anything. It's just make sure that the option is set and they can move forward. So now we're going to get into widescreen. And basically what widescreen does is it offers a new view of the Endeavor elements in wider panels. There are some things you have to do with your terminal emulator as well as ISPF, and we'll go through those changes. It does provide more fields on the display because we're using an API, or Owen uses an API program to grab the input and then puts it in a table. And then you can realign the columns so you can show your display as how you see fit through a command structure. The first change in in ISPF is at the bottom of your terminal, there are characteristics. We make sure we use the maximum, and then we just give it a terminal type. So the only change in ISPF is, in fact, that terminal screen format to use wide. And this is what it looks like after you open it up. And it expands and contracts based on the application that's using it. But obviously you see that we have fields that are a little bit different than what you'd normally see in the Quick Edit or the Endeavor element list. And each one of these fields is available to be resorted through eSort, or you can use a mechanism that will change it and then leave it that way permanently for your viewing. In this case, I'm just looking at the elements in my inventory. And like I said, this is a screen. These are presentation slides of screen prints. Not live at the moment because I don't know the status of this particular inventory location, and I've been playing with this for quite a while. So in the far right-hand corner, we see something called CCID that I've highlighted, and at the top left, I've got a command called eCalls, and this is a command that has been written, so Rex exec that displays a table and allows you to change the columns inside the display. And by Entering eCalls, you come up with a table that has been built. It's called the ENDQ table under the CTLI Apple ID. And at the bottom, you'll see that there is the CCID field, shows that its a maximum length is 12, default length of 12, and its primary sequence is 150. Now, that primary sequence says, where would you like this to be placed? And once you do that, it'll change the display and put them into a different column. You can change the lengths of these values. If you only want to see a certain length of a field, if you know that something is always 8 and but it's a 16-character field, you can change it, and vice versa. So these allow you to change anything you want in that display. And the help information gives you an idea of what you can, in fact, do in that table. Now, once the table has been saved, in this case, I'm telling the table's definition to move my CCID field into in between 20 and 30 as a sequence. So that should put the display in between the element and message columns on my display. And when I do that, we'll see that after we've done a refresh, the CCID has been moved over. And it's because I wanted to know what the CCID was, but I can move any panels around, any columns around any way I want within this panel. Now, right and left commands are also available to give you more display as to what the fields are, but just looking at this on target here, you can see that there's a lot of information available. I believe last gen date and last base date and other dates and times are available on that same panel. I don't think I built the screen or display that shows the right or left. Now, from within the Widescreen, you can use any Endeavor command, and you'll see that I've put an E next to the element that I want to edit in this case, and that's honored. I just wanted to show you that these commands are the same, but I didn't do anything more with it. Hang on, change it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for Widescreen, but it does give you ability to see more. Now, the next part of this FTP was called ESRCHFOR. Now, we've had instances at CA here where developers want to be able to search for their text string inside listings or inside source. Now, we decided that within in our implementation, we would use compressed listing libraries because it takes up a lot of DASD. But they do have the ability to change those listing libraries to fixed blocks so they can be searched for a text string. But if they're not in unblocked or a compressed format, searching is difficult. But this ESRCHFOR allows you to search within a listing or source for any text string. And there are optional settings, and there's process options available for this as well. So from a element selection list, this is just a view of an inventory location, and I said that these are the only elements that I want to look at this particular time. I want to enter the ESRCHFOR command to find a text string within these elements. And what happens when you start this command, it asks you for the text string, and then you can give it options as to what you want to have it search for, mixed mode, any case, use concurrent action processing if you want, look for the source, look in the listings. You can also get displays of everything or look for that particular string inside other Endeavor components. Once you give it the text string, this utility will then submit a batch job that does a retrieve for all of the elements in that list. And it submits that batch job automatically for you through the processing. You've got to provide a valid job card, of course. And then when it's finished, it comes back through a display and it's red, and it provides you with the details of where it found that particular text string. There is a slight delay of the request while it's waiting for the batch job to return. But then once you've done this batch job call and retrieved all the elements, all of the elements into a library or file that is then browsed, that file is available to you for the rest of the session. Unless you change the element list and you have to drive a new list, then that batch job will be run again. But if you're looking for multiple text strings in these lists of elements, you can reuse that same file. Now here it says it found the text string in each one of these elements, and I know that there is no information, rather, oops, I went too far, sorry. But I page to the right, put my cursor on the found location, which is a column that is available, and then put the expand command in the command line, and we see that the text string for that particular element shows up in an expand box. So from this display, I put my cursor on the first line of the ESRCHFOR found results, hit expand, enter expand, and the entire line where that code was found is displayed on the panel. Now I can then go and look at that element if I want to find out the details. I can also say ESRCHFOR in a shortened text, but provide it with a text string right on the command line, and you'll notice that this is a different element list that I'm asking it to look for these this text string. And when I finished the job finished and I did its display, it found it in multiple locations. And next thing I wanted to do was ask it to find the particular text string in listings. And the same thing happened. It came back with a whole bunch of responses. And you'll notice that now this is on the right side of the found location, we have assembler code that says that indicates the line where that text string was found. I can put my cursor on that line, type in expand, and I can see the whole instruction set on that in that expand box. So it gives you the flexibility of using source or listings. So before I jump into long name, are there any questions?
If anybody has any questions, please feel free to use either the chat function or the Q&A function in the WebEx, since not everyone's on the line.
Okay, we'll move on then. Now, long name support. Now, I've heard from a few of you that this is a nice subject, and you're very much interested in it. So, if there are any questions on this as I'm doing this, please feel free to interrupt and ask, and we'll answer any questions that we can. So long name support is HFS elements that are residing in Endeavor. Now, the implementation of HFS elements or USS elements in Endeavor require a different kind of setup. You have to define symbolics to define your paths where your element repository libraries will live, etc. They have to be available to the system or else how you're running on. All kinds of idiosyncrasies that go along with USS support, etc. But the only way to really add an element or modify, work with these long name elements was through the Enterprise Workbench. And some sites didn't have the Enterprise Workbench, so they couldn't really bring their USS or HFS elements under Endeavor support. And Owen was contracted, I think, to put something together for long name support. And this gives you the ability to do that. It provides you with a panel and the ability to add, update, or manipulate the elements through Endeavor. So in the implementation we have, an L option is going to provide a different set of panels, etc. So we supplied it as a separate command or a separate execution feature for the Endeavor product. In this case, it's option L, and that's how it comes delivered. And basically, you'll notice that this is a copy of the ENDIE 110 panel, and now it's called ENDIE 11L for long name. And you'll notice that the type name is above the element name, and then the other panel is below it. So this gives you the element panel input line to be longer than 10 characters. And so it does look a little different, but very minutely different. Everything else looks pretty much the same. Okay, now, I just asked Endeavor to drive me a list of all of the elements that were in this inventory, and you'll notice that I have data or NFS data as my types, and those type definitions are in fact defined so that they use HFS or USS paths as the repository. And I have a couple of elements that the name looks almost identical, but they are well, actually they are identical in two different inventory locations, but we don't see bracketed names. In the Endeavor product right now, if you have a long name element in an inventory and you want to look at it from an element list, it's in brackets, and you can't do anything with it in those brackets. Now, with the element name being a long name support here, we can change this so we can see the entire name or a longer name. Now, if I use the eCalls command and I want to modify the element length, I can do so and make it as long as I want and then push it off the rest of the screen, but I kept it at, I think it's 24 characters at the moment, and that's all I wanted to work with. So from here, I see that we have 3 long name elements, and I have a couple of other elements that are, in fact, C programs that live within an inventory location, and there's some assembler programs as well. So it's a mixed match of all kinds of elements in this inventory. But now I want to edit one of these long name elements. So I see the name that I want to edit. It's in stage 1 of dev. I just put an E next to it, and now I'm in edit mode of this element. It goes right into edit mode, gives me the element name, says where everything is, gives its inventory location. Now I can modify this as how I see fit. It uses the ISPF standard name commands. So let's take, for example, I wanted to create a new element. I put the create command down. I give it the name. I give it CCID and comment information. And now I'm in edit mode. And there's just a little bit of a detail. This note at the top is something that Owen put into place, showing the CCID and comment. I don't know why it's there, but it doesn't bother me. So I leave it. And then I can put some input in here as any way I want. But what I did was I went to another element, and I did a cut command for the previous element name. You'll notice this is long name element 1. I said cut 3 lines. I went back to my original element. I said paste and put it after the note line, and it put the information in there. And I just added a change or an extra line and hit PF3, and you end up with a batch job. The element is created, but in order to process it, you have to run a batch job to perform the work. Gives you a job card. Yo.
Sorry, this is Quick Edit, right, that you're using?
This is Quick Edit like.
Okay, but in order to use this, I would have to have Quick Edit installed.
I believe that would be true. I think that's true. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we don't have Quick Edit, so I'm just trying. I'm like, wow, this looks really neat. Okay,
well, all the more reason to purchase and have your management say we need to say to them we need Quick Edit. Right?
Well, we don't do our unit testing in Quick Edit. Like we don't. It's not in Endeavor. So that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
well, I'm sure Pete will help you with that.
Yes. Well, I'm very interested in everything else and want to know when it's available. But you'll get to that anyway. I'll let
Pete
you continue. Thank you.
Okay, so in order to get this element into the inventory, you have to do a batch job, and you can do submit, etc. There are other options that are going on here. You can enable auto processing, which is a auto gen. You can substitute some variables. I don't deal with any of that, or I can add some extra JSON. I just leave it alone and I let the job happen as I see fit. But there's other things that can be done. I think maybe I should have gone into those, but I didn't. And then you'll see when you come back from the screen, you'll see that the job was submitted. And you can then display your elements, and the element is now, in fact, in the inventory. I can generate, move, do anything I want with this element, and I can have a good time. Now, in this case, I'm doing a generate. Again, a batch job is performed, and the element is generated, and the timestamp information should change. In this case, it did, highlighted. So that's it. That's all I have for the long name support, but it gives you a rudimentary view of what we've provided, that you don't need CMEW anymore with this. We had a lot of our development is done with long name support for USS for our products all of the many diverse products at CA, not too much the Endeavor product itself, but it could be. And this gives you the chance to use USS or HFS as your repository. So the next part of this presentation talks about the Endeavor pop-ups that were provided. And on the top of an ISPF panel, we see that there are CUA commands you can use to jump to different places in the ISPF. And these have been modified a little bit to deal with the Endeavor product. And the first one is if we bring our cursor over and hit enter on the Endeavor pop-up, you can see that there are different options that are available for Endeavor. There's messages by, and I'll get into that in a second, but you can also jump over to Endeavor, jump into PDM, you can jump into the user menu or ACMQ, the ESRCHFOR utility. Package elements is something that Owen wrote to display elements, packages in a certain location, any of submitted jobs, etc. And I think I go through a couple of these. The first one is the messages. Here we go. And it basically shows you the last message filed for the last action that you just completed. Now, because the last one I executed was a display list of the elements after my create, I have the syntax or the output from the message file showing that a list command was done against a certain inventory. The next command I'm going to look at is regular Endeavor, and when I hit that enter, I'm right into the Endeavor SCM and the environments that I can select from. If I select option 8, which is submitted jobs, you'll notice that a pop-up occurs and it tells me all the jobs that I executed and what element I was working on. So it's kind of like it just reads the submitted job file. The next one that I went through was settings, and if you put your cursor on the settings command, and you get a list of different setting options for within the quick edit function. CCID and comment, enable override, silent override, etc. If you just do option 2, it just changes to whatever it was, etc. And eCalls is there, so you have the commands right at your fingertips. CCID and comments allows you to put a CCID in. In fact, if it's required, that's good. If it's not required, then it'll do it anyway. And the next one is the sort option. Now, this is I think this invokes the eSort option, but basically you can put your cursor on the sort keyword, pick a particular column, and then the sort will take place on the column that you selected. In this case, I want these elements to be sorted by the stage, and when I completed it, you'll notice that the stage 1 is first and stage 2 is last. And I'm looking at this thing through the non-long name facility. And you'll notice there's those bracketed names. Had I been looking at this through the long name facility, I would see the whole name layout in this display. So, next. Did I hit enter? There we go. All right. Now, the menu option allows you to do some other items. We have settings. This is ISPF, a lot of ISPF stuff. I don't think I did anything with those. And then the utilities allow you to jump right over to your ISPF option 3 facility or choices. And then the help option allows you to look at all kinds of little help panels that we have set up or that have been set up for the long name, widescreen, and search for utility, as well as other Endeavor stuff. So it allows you to give you a chance to see quite a bit and do some more. So this FDP is available, was available to us. We kind of like it. It provides some things that are already there. It adds more things that weren't there. And many of the developers who use this appreciate it because they can see a lot more than they could before. And some need to see everything. So it makes for an easy life for them. That's all I have, so are there any questions?
Bernie, there's some questions that were in the queue here. On an element selection list, will there ever be an option to concatenate another list on top of what you already have? For example, I want to display a program, then did BX, and do not want to see a copybook, but I do want to. I want two to appear on my list at the same time.
Wow. From my perspective of this FTP, I have no idea if that would ever be available.
Right. Right.
That's something an ideation should be open for.
I think they make a good point there.
Because I understand the need,
yeah.
I don't. But as far as I know, there's nothing like that in this FTP. We can run that by Owen to see if he thought about it, but it sounds a bit convoluted and a bit adventurous.
I think from my understanding what it is to be able to get the component list and then drill down and see the actual source code for the component themselves, the elements.
And browse the component from that component list sort, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking that is. If the person who entered that question wanted to clarify if that was incorrect, please speak up.
Any other questions?
There's another question. This is probably maybe me. It's HFS support. How would you add into Endeavor? I believe, actually, that might be supported with this feature. Is that correct? You can add from HFS, USS?
Yes. You would actually, through the Endeavor batch job, you just add from your path. That's already supported. You don't need long name support to do that because it's already available through the batch.
But there's no ISPF support for long names.
That's true. But once, okay, I understand.
That's not included in.
I don't think it's included at the moment, but I can certainly ask. I don't know that we need to expand on it, but that was the question. There was a question about when this is going to be available. As I said at the beginning, this is not part of the product. This is a field developed, which means use at your own risk. It's not supported by us. We are looking at it, given there's a lot of popularity. It's on ideation, and it's very, very popular. And we are seriously looking at scheduling it for V18. But we don't have a delivery date yet, so I can't, unfortunately, provide an estimate of when that will happen. But we are looking to see if we can incorporate all or some of this with V18, and we are certainly looking for development partners that would work with us in terms of validation as we go through the Agile process to implement it. So if you have interest and you haven't already done so, please let me know. I'm Peter McCullough at CA, and we can get you registered. There is another thing that I'd like to talk about when there's time, Len. I don't know, Bernie, when you're done. If we just go through the questions, then I'm done. Just go ask.
Okay. Okay. Maybe.
I just want to end saying that I use the widescreen support all the time now because I have to investigate details about elements in the inventory that customers are having trouble with. We run through a lot of synchronization problems because of concurrent development. So I use that widescreen support quite frequently just because I can see more on the panel, and it helps me visualize exactly what's going on when things happen. The search for I don't look at too much, but it's a very popular item because of our developers looking for text all over the place. They love looking at listings. They need to know what the listing provided, because we all know that most of the coding that's done is through the DSECs have the records of the fields, and they're pulled in, but they don't know the concept of them inside the program, et cetera, because they're pulled in late during the assembly. So they like looking at their listings and see what they did, especially if they're macros. And for the long name, we have one team that uses it quite frequently, as a matter of fact, because they do a lot of their development on USS, and they want to pull it into Endeavor and do the ISPF-like work, but use long name elements in their repository. So they like it quite a bit. They've been very successful with it. I don't hear much from them, but I know they're using it. And so I think that's a good thing if I don't hear from them, because that means they're working successfully. I usually only hear from people who are having problems. So this team is using it a lot, and they send me notes every once in a while saying, hey, things are going great, thanks, especially when I put maintenance on. So in a nutshell, we like it, and hopefully you can like it when it becomes available. When and if it comes, right? When and if, Pete?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd say it's closer to the when. I assume that everybody's off mute at this point, Len, since we heard people asking questions.
Yeah, but not everybody's dialed in, because we're using the audio broadcast for the presentation. So not everybody's on the phone line anyway.
So does that mean that anybody that can speak can speak?
Yeah, anybody who's on the line should be able to speak.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions or comments at this point?
These all sound terrific, and I'm looking forward to when they're available.
Who's talking? Who's talking?
Sorry, this is Danielle Filto.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
Thank you.
It would both of those ESRCHFOR and Widescreen would save us a lot of client comments and complaints, and also help us a lot with our work. Widescreen especially, we're already having to rewrite some things using ISPF to scroll through reports and things that are wider than our screen.
Okay, that sounds like a really good fit.
Mm-hmm. Hence why I was asking about a user mod.
Okay. Well, let me just go to that point here, and this is initial, so there's nothing to this yet, but we're looking at ways to make this available to people sooner than later. The user or the field developed solutions, and that these guys are not equipped for distribution, and like we are through the normal channels. So we're looking at a way that would effectively do it. And in fact, Rose had a great idea. Rose Saketch, the product manager, had a great idea in that we could use the ideation board to actually upload our shareware, and that anybody that was interested in a particular idea and there was code available, or whatever it is, could download that and install it and then provide their feedback through ideation. I checked with our legal team here to ensure that we would be, CA would be okay in terms of not implied support, because we can support the field developed solutions. And this would not only be limited to CA people doing things on their own time, which is what Owen did, thank you, but for anybody in the community that had something that they thought of a value, they could upload it and make it available to others if they wanted to do so. But the express warranty would be use at your own risk kind of thing. But if people wanted to do it, wanted to download it, then we could do it and make it available. And I was talking with Bernie just a little bit yesterday about perhaps to make it easier for everyone, we could have a consistent way to post these things, and that maybe we could get people in the community that could help with that, in a sense of how it would be documented in terms of a description, packaged in terms of somebody might create an SMP user mod that would include the changes so that it would be applied similar to a PTF. The advantage of doing that is that once you have that on, and if there was published maintenance from Endeavor or a new feature that conflicts with it, or another field developed solution that conflicts with it, SMPE will give you the added protection of letting you know that there's a conflict before overlaying any numbers, so that you can address that right off. User mods are particularly good for that kind of thing, as well as simplifying the implementation. So that's what we're thinking. I know that this particular feature, the long name support, has been installed at 1 or 2 customer sites already, And I have no issue at all with other people installing it and trying it and providing input. And so if anyone's interested in the community, I haven't had a chance to talk with Stuart Ashby, the president of the community, about this idea about using ideation, but I'm sure that he would be in favor, I think. I'm sure, I think. I hope he would be in favor. So stay tuned to that, and I think we can get a posting on the community when we come to a conclusion. Any questions or comments on that? Now, is this really our Endeavor people here on this call? Because normally people are talking.
There's some very familiar names here.
There must be a mute problem.
Maybe not.
Yeah. There's so some more questions have come in. It looks like it's possible that there's some mute issues, but I already unmuted everybody, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Are there any more questions? Guess not.
Well, if anybody has any questions after the fact, we'll be posting the replay later today. You can feel free to ask your questions as comments on that post, and then we'll make sure that Bertie and Pete and whoever else can get in there and answer the questions then. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Len, and thank you, Bernie. Excellent job with the presentation as usual.
Thanks.
And I think we have a different set of users on the call, not our Endeavor family, but.
Well, if people do want to have questions about it or want me to try something to see if it solves a particular question that they have, they can send me an email at bernie.barrio@ca.com, and I'd be glad to answer it. I'm part of the user community now, so I suppose that this communication is welcome and wanted. So glad
Absolutely.
to help.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bernie. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Have a
Bye,
good day.
everybody.
Bye.